I call them dancers. They don't, of course, move if I don't move them, but these sculptures are really nice and easy to make. So, welcome back to my channel and to this video. First of all, I have made some tools that I use to make it much easier. I have a wooden block with a round wooden stick drilled into it, and then a rounded wooden block again that fits perfectly on the wooden stick. Just by deciding how high I want it, I can use different wooden pieces and get the perfect height to my sculpture. The first thing I have to do is to wedge the clay. As you can see, I covered the piece of wood with plastic because it's much easier afterwards, when it has been drying for a while, to remove the whole sculpture. I cut the clay to the pieces that I want. I want to make a torso with the head and the body, and I need, of course, arms and clothes for this dancing figure. So I try to get the right proportions right away, and just by using my hands, I start by making the head, the neck, and the upper body. If you make a small sculpture like this, just give it time in the beginning, because it's much easier if you have a great ground to work with, and after that you can make the small details much easier. So just by pushing and squeezing, I get the head and the upper body all the way to the belly button. And as you can figure out, I will place this torso on my wooden tool, and after that drape it with more clay. The wooden block that sits right now on the chipwood board, if you take a look at it, it hasn't got too big a base. And that's really important, because if you make a big base, it will actually stick to the clay. So big enough to keep it steady, but not so big that the clay will actually stick to it later. Just follow me, you will see why. The torso is now ready. It's a little bit rough still, but I will put it aside for a while and work on the clothes. So the next thing I do is roll out a piece of slab, use a rolling pin. I will turn it many times and use my rolling pin from many directions. This way it will be the same thickness all the way. I don't want the clay to be too thick, nor too thin, so I try to get it about 1/2 centimeter thick. It's thick enough so that you can actually have it stand by itself when it has been drying, but not too thick, so you can actually shape it the way you want it. Just by using a needle tool, I cut 2 straight lines so that I get enough clay to cover up my torso. This will be a big skirt. I test it out first. After that, I slip and score, and then I attach the whole thing. The small wooden base is small enough so it won't touch the clay, and that's really important, because when the clay starts drying, it also shrinks, and if it touches the wooden base, it will actually crack. I wrap it around and then I cut the extra material away and attach the skirt so it looks like one piece of clay. The sculpture looks really rough still in this stage, but there's a few more adjustments and a lot more work to be done before it's ready. It's time for me to continue with the shapes and to get the right pose to the figure. So I think about the position of the head, I work a little bit more on the body, and then it's time to make the arms. So I roll out a coil of clay, cut it into 2 pieces, and then I cut 2 exactly the same length pieces. That will be the arms. I figure out where to place the elbows, and then I bend them into the right position and attach them to the torso. When you make thin pieces like these arms and attach them to your torso, it's really good that you slip and score at the shoulders, and you might even put a little bit of slip underneath the hands and attach them to the body. Otherwise, you might think about some other way to support them to keep the shape. I roll out small pieces of clay that I attach to the back, to the shoulders, to make it look a little bit more human and also to strengthen my sculpture. I use a turntable so that I can see my sculpture from all the different sides, and I place it on a piece of plastic so that it doesn't dry too much. Now is the time to add more details if you want to, but I don't want so much details on this sculpture. So I just smoothen it out, and then it's time for me to start making the clothes. Once again, I roll out a piece of slab and I make it even thinner than last time, and then I use my needle tool to cut it into small strips of clay, and these are perfect for clothes, hair, etc. I always try out first what it will look like, and after that I use slip and I score a little bit to really secure it to the sculpture. This sculpture would not stand by itself if I didn't have the piece of wood inside as support. But I have to remember, the clay will start shrinking when it dries, so in about 1 day I need to take it away. You of course have to check that the piece can stand by itself after that. I have now almost placed all my strips of clay in the right spots to hide some dents and to make some great looking clothes. And it's time to put some patterns into it, and after that I will just leave it to dry for 1 day. Some small finishing touches to the face, and I also of course need some hair, so I will also make that right now. I use a wooden tool to carve into the clay and make these small lines to create a more lively hair, and also on the clothes I make the same stuff. a few more adjustments to the head before I'm done with my sculpture. And after this, I will leave it to dry, bisque fire it, and give it the last fire with some glazing. This is what it looks like when it's wet, and I will now cover it up for 24 hours with some plastic. One day has now passed, and as you can see, it has already started to dry from the bottom, so I can remove the support from inside and it can stand by itself. It's time to let it dry completely and give it the fire that it needs. This is the final result. My sculpture has copper oxides for the hair, and I brushed on some brown glazing on the clothes. The clay I use is a Stoneware clay, so I can actually have my statue or sculptures outside in the summer and even in the winter, even though it's cold here in Finland. And just to give you some inspiration, here are a few other so-called dancers that I made. I hope I can inspire you to make yourself some sculptures like this, because it's really easy and fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm really happy that you found my channel and my videos, and I hope to see you again soon in the future. Goodbye for now, and good luck with your own sculptures. Bye bye.